murder, mayhem, serial killers, gender differences? Have we ever truly looked at how the difference in a gender of a serial killer may affect their kill? Well, that's what we'll be discussing today. Welcome to the Glass Floor. This is a podcast about gender equalism and the glass floor, which happens to be the glass ceiling of some men in some harder positions, but the glass floor, the women reaching their own glass ceiling, as you can see in our logo. This is a show sponsored by NCFM, the National Coalition for Men, which was founded in 1977 and is dedicated to fight discrimination against men, boys, their family that loves them, and their supporters. They're a nonpartisan, inclusive, and diverse organization. And today we're going to be discussing our different serial killers. We thought this would be a very fun episode topic because who doesn't like true crime? And especially with everything coming out, the Dahmer show a couple years ago, which had a huge amount of popularity, Ted Bundy movie, etc. So with that, we're going to go through some different categories of serial killers and then discuss the similarities, differences, and MOs.
Yep.
So starting in our first category, we have well-known or popular serial killers. And to no surprise, the male for this topic would be Jeffrey Dahmer. Probably one of the most successful series I've seen. Tim?
Yes, Jeffrey Dahmer. Well, all these serial killers are astonishing. That's why we're so fascinated by them, because they're so far over on the bell curve. They're so bizarre.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, the male version of the thing are so famous, we think, oh, we would just do the women a favor and make them famous too. Let's have equality in all things. So yes, there have been heinous males that done terrible things. Well, guess what? There have been some real major pieces of work in the female category
As well.
Yes.
Yeah. So for this case, for those of you who don't know, which he's so popular, honestly, I feel like it's hard not to. Jeffrey Dahmer killed 17 victims that we're aware of. Men and boys, usually between the ages of the teens to the 30s. This happened all around the 70s, 80s, for the most part. And of course, he wasn't caught for a long time because there's a bit of a stigma back in the day about homosexuality, which unfortunately led to him being able to get away with this. And the location of this was in Wisconsin. We said Wisconsin because that's generally where he was. We understand this all started a little bit before Wisconsin, but he was born in Wisconsin. Interest started there. Went to school, Ohio, all that. Came back to Wisconsin, and that's where he was arrested, put in jail, eventually passed away.
Yeah.
And so for Jeffrey Dahmer's situation, he, for those who don't know, would end up going to bars, clubs, wherever, sometimes just on the street, buy alcohol, usually booze. I don't really think it was drugs as much, really. And would sort of lure him in, invite him to his apartment. And
Yeah.
next thing you know, they would do it. And then they would get tortured, decimated, dismembered, and sometimes
Yeah.
put into a barrel full of acid. And that was the end of the victim.
Yep.
So, Jeffrey Dahmer for the popular male category. And we'll see with some of the other people that we put on here that there are some similarities with the way he went about it. For the female category, we chose probably historically the most well-known. I know there's a lot of people who disagree with this.
Yeah.
Because it was the 1500s.
Right.
There's not a lot of evidence back
500
then.
years ago.
Yeah.
Can you be sure? Yeah. Right. But she's unique, isn't she? I mean, pretty
Mhm.
much in terms of she killed in the male way, which was,
Torturous and
strangers and
bloody, yeah.
yeah,
Uh, However, in a very female way, she did not do this alone. I know some of you are looking 650 plus victims. 650 is what was said while she was at court, basically, when they were trying to figure out what was going on. The witnesses they brought in counted up to 650. It could be more. For those who aren't
yeah.
aware, hmm
The story goes, as far as I know, that a ledger was found
yeah,
with like 650 names on
names, yeah.
it.
And she was the Countess, literal Countess. It's not just her nickname.
Yeah.
The literal Countess in Hungary
Yeah.
and Slovakia, I believe, as
Oh yeah.
well.
Okay.
But all her lands were Hungary.
Huh.
Were in Hungary, and she basically killed servants, peasants, and then for those of you who are trying to figure out what gentry is the word for the lower part of the higher class.
Mhm.
The higher class themselves are broken up into like, really friends with her, sort of, definitely not. But their family has enough wealth, connections, birthright to be
Yeah.
considered noble still. So those people who were the low noble were considered gentry. And those were the girls who would be sent into court by their families in hopes that they would befriend her and make their rank go even higher.
Big mistake.
Unfortunately, a big mistake. Unfortunately, that was not the case. They went in there and they never came back.
Yeah.
And she had, I believe, 2 to 4 servant accomplices who helped this
Mhm.
out. So it's not like she killed them on her own. But it was supposedly found that there was a ledger. They had over 13 to 15 witnesses. Unfortunately, though, none of them, of course, were the actual victims themselves because none of them lived to tell the tale.
Yeah.
Um, and so she was put in as one of the most famous, well-known stories because it is the Blood Countess.
Yeah.
That's a name you don't forget.
Yeah. The real sort of female Dracula, as it were, a real
Yeah.
bloodthirsty, torturing
hmm
monster in that particular way.
Yeah, I think it's funny. I feel like when I was reading at one point, it did mention she was in Transylvania for a little while. So, irony of that.
Yeah. And her husband was a prince,
Yeah.
and he was some kind of he like led men into battle,
hmm
right? So he saw all kinds of gore.
hmm
He saw all kinds of horrible atrocities, and he was still afraid of his wife.
Yeah. I heard he actually supposedly knew of some or helped her out sometimes originally at the beginning, possibly. It's not known,
Yeah.
but it's rumored.
But he built the torture chamber,
He
right?
built the torture chamber, yeah, for prisoners that they
Yeah.
would take in.
Honey, would you build me a torture chamber? Oh, of course I will. Here, Pookie. Okay, okay, Pumpkin. There you go.
Happy wife, happy life? Question mark? Anybody? Uh, might be taking that to an extreme level. But she ended up gaining the nickname Blood Countess from the fact that people started then saying that she killed all these women to bathe in their blood
Yeah,
to stay youthful. Now,
that's
there is one theory out there that possibly she didn't kill any of these women. She was secretly trying to take them away and educate them, give them clothes, and bring them away from Hungary because at the time Hungary was sort of not very woman friendly to education
uh,
and lifting yourself up for peasantry.
mm-hmm.
That has not been proven now,
Yeah,
and there are very few accounts of it. Their only viable possible proof of it is the fact that after her husband died, she apparently went on a shopping spree in Venice and bought an unbelievable amount of dresses that were seen to be impossible to be for one woman.
ah,
So,
yeah. Always hard to tell, right? I mean, I have a phrase I use all the time. Um, in the anywhere in the realms of gender, it's like bias is omnipresent,
Mm-hmm.
and so it's always a little hard to tell fact from fiction in these things,
Oh yeah.
especially when it's 500 years ago.
Yeah. I don't really have hard evidence. But next we have the category of basically not well known. We decided to do this one just so people know a little bit more because you obviously have your popular serial killers. You have Ted Bundy, Jeffrey Dahmer, uh, Killer Clown.
Yeah, Gacy, everyone's favorites. Yeah.
Yeah. Trying to think of who else off the top of my head.
Oh, Ed Gein,
I mean,
Psycho.
mm-hmm.
Uh,
Zodiac killers.
yeah, yeah,
Zodiac.
yeah. Son of Sam,
Mm-hmm. Uh,
Unabomber.
yeah. Trying to think, there was a popular one that I think was in Alcatraz, and I can't think of his name.
Hmm. I don't know.
Come to me later. But
Oh.
LaRon Williams, lesser known. This is actually, by the way, the only photo I was able to find of LaRon Williams, so that really tells you how lesser known he is. But he lived in Nashville, Tennessee. He moved between there and sort of the North Chicago-ish, but not quite, I think. Or he had friends there. Whatever the case, actually, he only killed three known people, but one known actual victim. The other two were unintentional kills because what happened is he had murdered a sex worker at a fair in Nashville. He got caught. He somehow managed to escape from his holding cell.
Hmm.
And in running away, ran into a cop. Cop sort of realized who he was, killed the cop, ran into a church, and killed the pastor. Um, yeah, an escape and run that led in
Yeah.
3 deaths. But technically, his MO, if you will, is he was looking towards sex workers because it was suspected that he had killed sex workers in multiple different states. And even more than the one there, it's just they hadn't quite proved it yet. So they were only able to convict him of, well, the cop, the pastor, and the one sex worker. But it is believed that there's at least 2 or more. There's 2 more who are named, one from Georgia, I think the other one was from Louisiana, who they highly suspected him for. And then the others were just a bunch of different cases across different states, and it just happened that the timelines worked out.
Hmm.
But he ended up dying on July 7th, 1985. There was no date of birth that I could find outside of it saying 1949.
Hmm.
But he strangled the sex worker to death. And apparently that's why they suspected him, because the other 2 were also strangled around similar timelines, and so were some of these others.
Mm-hmm.
He would do it with them, and then in the middle of it, just...
Yeah.
And that was that. In less well-known female category, we have Juana Barraza, who was known as the Mata Viejitas. For those of you who don't speak Spanish, that translates to the old woman killer. The killer of old women, of grandmas, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, this woman is still alive because this is a little bit more current. She was born in 1957, but she was believed to be killing people, I believe, between the 1980s till 2006 when she was arrested.
Uh-huh.
And she lives in Mexico, and she would kill elderly women.
What was her modus operandi? How did she do it? Would she use poison or what?
So this is the explanation of the picture. For those of you who don't know, in Mexico, there's a type of wrestling where you hide your identity called lucha libre. She was a lucha libre fighter who, funny in this incident, was believed to be trans because of how masculine she was,
Uh-huh.
which is why they didn't suspect her for a
Yeah,
good bit.
well, yeah.
And what she would end up doing is she wouldn't be in that outfit, obviously, or people would know who she was. It took them a while to find her. But she would go to these old women and she was trying to rob them. And if they try to fight back, she would end up either bludgeoning them with fists and stuff and
Wow.
strangling them and other things. Yeah.
Oh. Huh. I see. Not exactly the flower of femininity.
No,
Yeah, she wouldn't go around in that outfit, too.
because they would have known right away.
Yeah, you couldn't maintain your anonymity very well with that.
But she managed to maintain her identity pretty well. Because they were looking, they knew it was a woman,
Hmm.
but they were thinking it was a different kind of woman, if you will.
More female woman,
More
probably.
female womanish. And at first they honestly didn't even think it was a woman. They thought it was a man originally, and they were trying to find a man. And then some of the people described people they saw walking near the victims at the time, and many of them had the description of, oh, like the mole and the height, and they started putting two and two together and saw the picture of her because her hair would be different when she was fighting, and saw the picture of Lucha, and they sort of figured it out.
I see.
So she's finally arrested in January 26th of 2006. Fun fact, by the way, they sentenced her to 759 years in prison. So apparently they don't call it life. They just make it unlimited years till they think you've done enough. So if by miraculousness she lives to 800, she'll be free.
Right.
But she was charged for 16 deaths, all elderly women above the age of 60. It's believed that she killed over 40. Like 40 and or over 40. And so that, and that's how she got her nickname. Since they were all over 60, she became the Mata Viejitas.
I see.
I know a lot of you are like, the other one with the nickname got decorations. I didn't feel like putting old dead women all across this because I thought that would be a little far. But yeah, so that is the unknown.
Did you come across Jane Topan in your...
I did. She's not on here, but I did also.
Well, I think that's another 40 count, body count, I think, for her, or poison in her case.
Yeah. Poisoning is a very often one.
Yeah, it is.
I've noticed that.
For women, yeah, that is common. And yeah, she just happened to be operating, I think, at the same time as Jack the Ripper. And but her body count was much larger.
Yeah. Jack the Ripper and his female accomplice. Sort of what that kid was. No, this one was interesting one, to say the least.
Yeah, to say the least. Wow, piece of work, huh?
And it was a bit odd, too, because it stood out to me because it was elderly women, specifically, which I was like, hello?
Interesting.
Who would attack the elderly?
Well, there's that category that work in like old folks' homes or nursing homes or
Which you've seen, yeah, that makes sense for some of the people who've done that. But she wasn't even close to nursing. She was at lucha libre.
Yeah, so she was just seeking them out. Wow.
For robbing them.
Some kind of didn't get along with her mother very well, I have a feeling.
Possibly. But with that, the next category, of course, because we're in Chicago, has to be Chicago. So for male category, the famous, the well-known, killer clown, John Wayne Gacy. Funny story on how we got to this episode that I feel like is relevant to this. My father used to frequent a roller rink called the Rainbow Roller Rink. Some of you who are older probably know it. I realize people my age, it stopped existing back around like the 90s. I believe it was 93 when it got shut down.
Is that like Riverview or is that something else? Something else, I guess.
Something else. Yeah.
All right.
But the Rainbow Roller Rink, the reason I say it was related to this, because when you search it up, the first thing that pops up is that when they tore it down, they found two remains, two separate people. They were able to identify who it was. It wasn't even like the full bodies too. It was like a foot, a shoe, a couple of other bones. But a lot of people started contemplating if it was John Wayne Gacy. Later, when they identified the year of the shoe, it was found that it couldn't be him. But people for the longest time were like, oh, because it was, the bones were, at least they were able to age them and figure out that they were people in their like 20s. So And that's how I came upon John Wayne Gacy, because I was like, who's this Gacy person? And I got a long story on that. So John Wayne Gacy lived Illinois area, really,
Uh-huh.
because it was Chicago, but his last kill was a boy in Des Plaines. And a lot of people said he would hang around Norwood Park area too, Norridge, basically Chicago and its suburbs.
Uh-huh.
And he tended to kill males in their teens to 20s.
Mm-hmm.
It's the main thing. And much like Jeffrey Dahmer, drugs, alcohol,
Yeah.
rape
Yeah.
would come, rape them. At least with Dahmer, he got consent. Not in all cases, but in some of them.
Hmm.
Um, obviously.
Oh.
That sounds terrible to say. Given the situation.
Yeah. Given how things worked out, it was not very.
Not very consensual. Uh,
But it's interesting that some of the serial killers are opposite sex killers and some are
yeah.
same sex killers.
Oh, yeah.
For both,
For both of them to
men
be
and
same
women,
sex,
yeah.
yeah. So, in this case, rape them, kill them, different kinds of torture for killing them. And in his specific case, what was well known is the fact that most of those bodies ended up in a little space underneath his house,
Yeah.
which is how they ended up finding it. And he racked up to 33 victims that we're aware of.
Yeah.
And the reason they suspected the rainbow to be him was because he had a construction company, I believe it
That's right.
was, and they apparently had done some renovation work for the rainbow.
Oh.
So that's why some people were a little questioning.
Oh. Uh-huh.
But he usually was known as a killer clown because he would show up at birthday parties as a clown.
Yeah. Right. And as you can see, he's got the pointed smile.
Mm-hmm. When you see it
Frightening.
that way, it looks real creepy. This is why people fear clowns.
Yeah. Right.
I'd like to put that on record. This man right here is the reason.
Single-handedly.
Single-handedly is the fear for clowns. See a clown, you know you're gonna die.
Yeah.
Honestly, I should have searched it up. I'm curious if he would have been the influence for killer clowns from outer space.
Yeah.
I watched them growing up. That made me never want to see a clown again in my life.
Right. And there's some other horror film with a killer clown, right? I don't even know what it is. But anyway.
And then for our Chicago category of women, we have Tillie Klimek. This is another older one. This is 1876 when she was born.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of these murders happened closer to, I would say, like way later 1800, like probably the 1890s up until like the 1920s-ish. In her case specifically, all her victims were her husbands and her boyfriends for the most part.
Yeah.
And I think one of her cousins, because her cousins, again, back to the accomplice, her cousin helped her out with one of these. And so she was finally
Male
arrested.
or female cousin? Female cousin.
Female cousin, yeah. Nellie. Or wait. Is Nellie a male? No, I think Nellie was a female from what I read. Well, she was arrested in 1922, so her last one was, I think, like 21. Or was it earlier 22? Something around that. But yeah, so all her husbands and boyfriends basically would. And the funny part too of this is she would predict, quote unquote, when they were going to pass away. So everyone believed she had a superpower of predicting when people were going to pass away, especially loved ones.
Wow.
So because of that, no one ever suspected it, because they actually somehow believed that she just knew they were going to die. And that when she was asking for weird things like a coffin ahead of time, so she was just being resourceful.
Well, it also kind of shows the deep gender bias, right? I mean, women have always evaded suspicion. Just being female. Like if you study Lizzie Borden, it was an open and shut case, but they could not convict her. She stood no chance of being convicted because everyone was of the belief that a woman couldn't do such a thing. A Christian woman could not do such a thing.
Yeah. But she finally got caught because after, I think it was like her third husband passed away. because I think it was like she had like 3 husbands and like 4 boyfriends or something like that. She a lot of money. They got suspicious. They ended up testing sort of the ground around things, and they found traces of arsenic.
Uh-huh.
And that's when they found out that she was just poisoning them. And they found out later that was because she got life policies on all of them.
Right.
So they would stick around, be useful. Arsenic, boom, she gets a life policy. So again,
Yeah, and you were
resourceful
talking
for money.
earlier about the different motivations, right? Go
Yeah.
ahead, say,
Oh, I was saying that with the men, it seemed like it was just sort of like killing or like trophies or, just
yeah, like blood sports. This is like
blood sport,
some kind of
basically.
excitement from.
Yeah, some excitement from it. And with the women, obviously not all of them, but like y- Miss Bathory the Countess Bathory is a very unique situation.
Yeah.
um, but with some of them, it's like it's an intention. It's money, vying for jewels, jealousy.
Uh-huh.
We were talking earlier. You know how to pronounce it better than I do. Munchausen by
Munchausen syndrome by proxy.
Proxy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right. That's well, there's a woman that killed for attention, but we'll get to that one.
yeah. Kill their kids and stuff. Um, and then I know, like, I don't know how much I counted in there, but like when looking at like Aztec and Mayan history, when the Spanish started invading, some of them would kill their babies because they didn't want them to suffer slavery and other things.
Uh-huh.
So there was that, but that's more of like a
Yeah.
historical
Right.
situation.
Different. Yeah.
Um, so there's a lot more intention, if you will, to it, and with men, it's not so much. So with that, we're gonna go into our teacher of female patterns versus male patterns. As we brought up, the female patterns that we've seen so far, a lot of it is close people, helpless people, like babies or elderly, or relatives. There are a lot of people, husbands, boyfriends, kids, aunts, uncles, cousins, category of everybody.
Uh-huh.
Not that there aren't male serial killers. I'd like to point out here, we're not saying it's all of them. There obviously are some male serial killers that have killed their family members.
Hmm.
But it just happens that the females have a higher rate of doing that.
Yeah. The bell
Um,
curves. Yeah. The bell curves are that yeah, the women tend to kill those they know. They kill, loved ones more often. And the males go out and kill strangers more often.
mm. And as we point out, like young folk, which again, not that the women didn't do it, but a lot of victims
Hmm.
tended to be on the younger side than the older
Hmm. Hmm.
versus the one mata viejitas. And then boys and men, like there's a lot more seems same sex murders on the male side
Yeah.
than the female side.
Uh-huh. Yeah,
Um,
I think that might be true. Yeah. I think both sexes kill men more often than women.
who's the victim?
Yeah.
At least in the murder situation.
Yeah.
Which is funny too, because I feel like every Dateline story my parents watch every night is about women getting killed.
Yeah. Well,
And here we are. With female patterns, not all of them, but a good amount of them had helpers or accomplices. Obviously, we saw an example where they didn't, but Miss Bathory had one, 2 to 4.
uh-huh.
Tillie Kilmack had her cousin. So they'll have someone who helps them out sometimes or assists, or people who just know,
Hmm.
and don't really say much about it, which makes you honestly equally as much of an accomplice if you know your friend is killing a bunch of people and you don't say anything,
That's right.
or your family member or your
Yeah.
wife or.
Yep.
And then with the males, they tend to more solo kill. They do it on their own and don't let anyone else know.
Hmm.
Um, Seems to be more often that they want to do it themselves.
Yeah.
Because they're like, if I share this with somebody, they're going to rat me out. Which, I mean, technically, probably wouldn't be the case.
That's probably would be the case. Yes.
Females seem to
Uh,
have more loyal
well, and
people to
that's
them.
true. Yeah. Well, there's also this thing. Oh, geez. I don't remember the exact statistic, but it's like, oh, 20% of women that hire a man to kill another man the man that hired to kill ends up just turning her in, but 80% go through with it. And when hiring a man to kill a woman, it flips around. But
Yeah.
80% just turn in whoever it was that commissioned the kill.
Oh, wow. Well then.
You know,
Loyalty to women. Makes sense.
yeah,
Unfortunately, but makes sense.
yeah, it does
Yeah, as we
in its way.
mentioned. Mm-hmm. So as we mentioned, usually for money or other intentions, kids, issues, traumas, other things. Not that there isn't traumas on the male patterns. I There's
Yeah,
obviously it's like a different kind of trauma
that's
though.
right. At worst, the female killers using poison can extend the torture for weeks or months, and they can pretend to be the man's nurse.
Mm-hmm.
They can be pretending to be there for them, and the man's apt to say, I love you so much for what you do for me. It's amazing how you stick with me through all this terrible illness that I'm going through, um, and she can reduce the amount of poison so that he may seem like he's getting better, and then increase the dose until he's getting worse. And there's even talk of a woman getting into bed with a man as he's dying and orgasming to his death, um, to his death spasms. Yeah, I mean, not arguing that women are worse than men or that men are worse than women. That's not what we're about.
No.
We're just really trying to show the balance in things,
Mm-hmm.
rather than the world tends to believe man bad, the overempowered oppressor, woman good, the innocent victim. And as gender equalists, we just want to point out that there's a balance to these things that probably doesn't exist in the media very much or in schools and the way these things are taught.
Mm-hmm. And the way they're like mentioned too, because as I said, Dateline brings up the film victims their full name. When Jeffrey Dahmer, some people know some of the victims' names, but there's like some names that they're just like, and the dudes he killed.
Yeah. Yeah, and then you've got a woman like Mary Beth Tyning,
Mm.
who's about as heinous as any being has ever been on the planet, and nobody knows her name.
Yeah.
There's that just doesn't happen with the male serial killers. They become famous
Mm.
very often, and
Very famous. I mean, Dahmer
yeah,
has a show. I don't think there's a show about the Countess.
no,
Nothing
no
I'm
show
aware.
about Mary Beth Tyning. Yeah, so that would be quite the thing to try and create a movie of the Mary Beth Tyning story.
Mm.
Um, I would think it could not be made, that no one would make it, that it would just be refused.
Mm.
So that gets us to Munchausen syndrome by proxy.
Yep.
So Munchausen syndrome is, well, like a hypochondriac makes up illnesses,
Mm.
but the hypochondriac believes that they have these illnesses.
Yeah.
Uh, Munchausen was the name of some mythic figure, some real historic figure, Baron Munchausen,
Mm.
who told tall tales. He was famous for all these outrageous stories that he made up. So, Munchausen syndrome by proxy, that's mothers who make up a story about an illness with their child. It's by proxy, so it's not themselves.
Yeah.
So they do horrible things to their children and then go running into hospitals screaming, my baby, my baby, my child, save my
Save. Yeah.
child. See, and so in the case of Mary Beth Tyning, the first time this happened was for real. Her child had tuberculosis or something.
Ooh.
And she, brought to a hospital, and sadly, the child died. But the thing is, she so enjoyed all the attention she got as the
Oh.
grieving mother, she couldn't get enough of it. So one after another, all 9 of her children one by one, she would suffocate them or poison them
Mm.
anywhere with the ages of like, I don't know, 3 to 9 or so, and go running into the hospital screaming, "Save my child."
Yeah, I'm trying to think of the mother's name of the famous case. The girl just recently got out. Gypsy? Gy-
Is that a Munchausen syndrome by proxy?
Mhm.
So something more recent?
Yeah.
Hmm. Uh-huh.
They were faking that she had like cancer and all these
Uh-huh.
other things,
Yeah.
and she ended up killing her mom and thought the boyfriend was in on it too. 'Cause she was
Uh,
secretly texting her boyfriend.
uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah, Patricia Pearson, who studies these things.
I'm so sorry. I wish I could remember the name of this right now. It's killing me that I
Oh,
don't.
well, it may come to you. Yeah.
Because when she came out recently, and she's got like a husband stuff, and people, she's like getting back on media, and people are like, "Oh my God, she's out." The daughter
The daughter,
who
yeah.
killed who ended up killing the mother.
Well, it's pretty understandable because if she grew up to realize what her mother was doing to her,
Hmm.
and they do horrible things
Yeah,
to simulate cancer or whatever, they do horrible things.
yeah. I've heard of some cases where they use eye drops apparently,
Yeah?
because apparently it has like a certain toxin. And you put enough of that in there, and you're
Right.
not supposed to. It says on the bottle you're not supposed to consume eye drops.
Right.
So some of them sneak it in there.
Oh, uh-huh. Hmm.
Heard of cases like that.
Yeah. They'll suffocate almost to the point of death. That's another one, and
Mhm.
yeah, other things. Right. And it's also interesting in the case of Mary Beth Tyning, probably in other cases also, well, you can see a pattern, by the time their ninth kid comes in and it's on death's door.
Mhm.
But it's interesting, only the nurses suspected her. The doctors were so enthralled to a mother's grief that they did not suspect her.
Jeez.
Yeah.
No. The case I'm thinking of, the more modern one, I remember it pretty well, which it's sad I can't remember her name. But I remember it being like they were like faking cancer and they would take advantage of it for programs and aid and
Uh,
skipping
uh-huh.
lines and stuff.
I see.
And I think that's where it came in. She liked the ability to do that and make people feel for them.
Uh-huh. Yeah, she probably enjoyed the intention also.
That's why you bring up the poisoning, because now I've been thinking back to it. Childhood ruined. I'm sorry, guys, but I'm sorry for those who are listening. Your childhood's about to be ruined. There's a Barbie movie called The 12 Dancing Princesses, and the reason this stands out is because in the movie, the main antagonist, the main enemy is an aunt who comes in to take care of the 12 girls and sort of strain them out, the 12 princesses, because the
Uh-huh.
dad says they're like too wild and
Oh,
need to be taken care of. She is poisoning the dad who's the king so she can take over her spot because none of the daughters are married and they're too young to take the role and they obviously have to be married to be queen and a
oh,
certain age.
I see.
So throughout the movie, the aunt is poisoning their father, the king.
Uh-huh. Geez, well, that's pretty brave of a Barbie movie. I've never seen a Barbie movie, but I had heard kind of, surprisingly that they're actually good movies.
They are actually pretty decent, not gonna lie. But I just remember that and I'm like, wow. Really watched an entire movie with 12 princesses and their dad getting poisoned almost to death.
Yeah, that's
Cause it showed him getting weaker, and then, like, for a little bit, when you were bringing up the game better, it showed a scene where he finally came out, he seemed better, and then they come, and he's in the bed coughing, and she would sneak into the tea. She was sneaking the poison into the tea, he's like, "I don't know why I'm not getting better."
yeah, yeah.
And, like, the whole movie ends with them and it's called 12 Dancing Princesses because it's based off the story of the 12 Dancing Princesses who would end up in the secret land, and so they end up back trying to get out of the secret land, which their aunt trapped him in, found a way out, snuck back in a castle to stop her from the last poison that could possibly kill him. And then they'd send her away, and everyone lives happily ever after. But it was,
All right.
it's just a thought of the fact that that was in a Barbie movie.
Yeah.
Like, here we were at 6 years old watching this guy get poisoned
Yeah.
for the plot line.
Mhm. Right, they have such a heinous female in a Barbie movie. Wow.
And it's just a thought that came, like, talking about intentions, the intention to take away king to become queen, basically, queen regent or
Yeah, yeah. Well, look at so
advisor.
if you do a study of ancient Rome, you see tons of this sort of thing going on. Mothers and aunts and so on, yeah. Sometimes they'll just prop up some son to be the emperor just so they can manipulate him and be,
Mhm.
the ruler behind the scenes. Sometimes they'll kill
Yeah.
someone to get their son elevated more or to elevate themselves more. And there was within families, there was a lot of this going on, both male and females in this royalty plotting to kill each other.
Oh, you sort of reminds me of Kosam. She was a Ottoman sultana,
Ah,
princess. She was married in, um, but she lost her husband and, like, was basically said to be she was huge. She had a huge amount of influence.
uh-huh.
Even though her kids were the rulers, she was the huge influence realistically, like, they
Yeah,
were just sort of there.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
Right, that happens a lot more than we wish to admit. A lot of times, we'll talk about, behind every great man there's a great woman, but
yeah,
we'll rarely talk about, women actually having the power in a
mhm,
situation.
behind the scenes.
Yeah,
But, where were we? Oh, yeah. Male patterns are more prone to influences, basically meaning when it comes to hiding their stuff, they can say, "Oh, well, he was on drugs." They use alcohol to lure him, and then that becomes the excuse later on that they don't suspect. They were like, "Oh, well, the guy was just drunk, and we don't know where he is, but he's a drunkard for getting drunk walking around Chicago or whatever." Or influences in terms of the people they know. They'd be like, "Oh, Bob would never do that."
right.
I've known Bob for like 20 years and having alibis that way.
Uh-huh.
So they're more prone to using influences to get their victims, so that way they have tight alibis by claiming, well, the person drank, the person took drugs, Bob would never do that. That person was,
Yeah,
alone. Nobody cared about them. Because with some of them, they would just choose, kids off the street
yeah.
or men off the street
Uh-huh.
and clubs. And again, in Dahmer's case, it was the 80s. Homosexuality wasn't seen well. So they really
Yeah.
didn't look much
The
into
story
it.
about Dahmer, though, that struck me the most is like the police finally came to his door
Mhm.
and he was able to act completely cool, like, oh, come on in, welcome in, no problem. He had a great actor's
Mhm.
ability to just, I don't know, quell his anxiety. And it wasn't until some police officer happened to open the refrigerator and there's a head in there.
Yeah.
And then I guess the story goes that Dahmer just screamed like an animal when he realized that he'd been caught.
Mhm.
But right up into that moment, he was
He was
just,
very chill, yeah.
yeah, very chill.
Well, apparently he almost got caught one other time because he was bringing a young boy and I guess the neighbor called
Ah,
or something like that. But when the cops came, they asked him about it. He was like, "Oh, this is just my boyfriend. He's really like dazed out. He had too much." And the minute they heard boyfriend,
yeah, they're like,
backtrack. Yeah.
yeah, I could see that in the 80s, right? They'd freak out.
So they were like, "Oh, never mind. We're not gonna look
Amazing how
into
times
it."
change, though, isn't it?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Jeez. But yeah, I could so see that back in the 80s. They'd go, oh, that was my boyfriend. Oh, okay, well, I'll just get out of here then. Yeah, I could so see that.
And so that was sort of an influence unintentionally that helped that situation
Yeah,
specifically.
yeah, right. Hmm. Well,
Those Gacy really was the Bob wouldn't do that because why would the guy who's a friendly clown for parties ever do anything?
yeah, and Ted Bundy did this. You're not even supposed to say suicide anymore. What they have completed self what self kill or something. I don't know. It's kind of ridiculous, but
Deleted
that's
himself from
delete.
existence.
Yeah, self deletion. But he would be on those hotlines,
Mm,
and by all accounts, he was good at it. He would talk people out of it. He seemed to have great empathy.
Yeah.
So Ted Bundy is fascinating because he's another one who doesn't fit patterns. I mean, he fits some patterns, but he's
Yeah.
quite unique. Because my understanding is, in reading a book about him, is that he willed himself. He supposedly had an ordinary person's morals
Mhm.
and inhibitions against doing violence, and he had to deliberately, consciously overcome his own conscience because he wanted to do this thing. He wanted to kill women. So he set himself up the task of overcoming his conscience in order to do what he wanted to do.
Hmm.
That might, maybe there's more like that, but that's the only one I know of that did that. Others were more like psychopathic,
Yeah.
and it didn't bother them to kill.
Sort of like they were wired differently.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a famous story of Bundy. While he was on the run, he came across this VW bug, and he stole it. And he's driving along, and he starts to realize that this VW bug is the absolute love child of somebody. That there's all these things that indicate that the owner just loved this VW bug and customized it in all kinds of ways. So according to the story, which I guess is verified, he drove it back, put it back where it was. So, well, I can't deprive somebody of their much loved VW bug, and went and stole some other car. But is that weird or what? He could kill somebody, but he couldn't
A
deprive
car,
them of
yeah.
their VW bug. What?
I will say, as a car person, if you took my car, you probably would be in the grave. Maybe he feared they would kill him.
Maybe they did.
He looked around, he was like, "Oh man, this
Oh
person
man,
actually cares
yeah.
about this
Oh
car.
boy, this is gonna be this. Yeah, I'm in
This is
trouble
the end of
now.
me." He returned that, he was like, "I'm gonna take a car that's less loved."
Yeah, yeah. But what an
No,
anomaly.
yeah, that was
God. Yeah,
he was a weird one.
he was a weird one.
So, because how can you do that and have a conscience?
It's unimaginable. All right.
But to our last point, gather victims, hunt victims. This is one I actually somebody on the internet sort of recommended as when you think about comparing female and male. They noticed that if you look at the female serial killers, they never really hunted as much. They usually gathered them, like they would lure them, either be helping them out, or
Yeah.
they would be dating them if there was like a significant other, or
Uh-huh.
they'd find some way to help out the person, or
Yeah. Yeah. Right. A lot of high body count serial killing females were like nurses,
hmm
and they would just kill their patients.
yeah.
They kill any patient that just was kind of a pain.
Yeah. Caretakers are things like that.
Yeah.
And like and even in Bathory's situation, if you think about it, she gathered
Yeah.
the servants and the lower part of the higher class
Right.
and because they wanted a way up.
Yeah.
And she was like, I'll give you a way up to heaven.
Yeah.
uh is
Ugh.
basically where that ended.
Yeah. Mm.
But she gathered them versus,
Uh-huh.
Dahmer,
Or Jack the
Gacy,
Ripper or
or
whatever.
Jack the
They
Ripper.
hunted.
They hunted.
Yeah.
Their victims were strangers, people they usually didn't know,
Yeah.
and they were just
Yeah. And they killed them for the thrill of it rather than for the life insurance money or,
mm,
right?
jewels, robbery,
Julie, yeah.
whatever,
There's so many motives that the female serial killers had. Uh,
empathy. Sympathy, really, more if you think about it than
Getting
empathy.
sympathy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
getting sympathy, getting attention,
Yeah.
jealousy in some cases, getting
Yes.
rid of an obstacle.
Uh-huh.
I mean, there are some male stories of jealousy, though.
Oh,
So,
sure.
a couple of different murders are jealousy.
Hmm. So
But
yes, it's interesting though,
mhm,
because the male and female serial killers are quite distinctly different. There's quite a line between them. You know,
mhm,
they really do sort of demonstrate innate difference between male and female. And it kind of makes sense they would because their behaviors are so far off on the bell curves.
mm.
They're such rare individuals that would do these evil things, uh, that I guess that would tend to show up then, the male versus the female way of doing it. Uh, and there's the overlap, of course, but they're quite distinct.
It is true, yeah. It's very different between the two, but
Yeah,
similar in some ways. And
yeah,
and as we point out, this isn't all of them. There are cases where, you know, there are men who've done the same thing, or women who've done the same
yeah,
thing as the men, but it usually follows a similar pattern, hence female male patterns.
yeah.
It usually follows this pattern of the women committing things with purpose, with, you know,
Goal in mind.
goal
Yeah,
in
yeah,
mind. Um, Usually not as gruesome.
right.
Find like excuses. The men being more gruesome, deliberate.
Yeah,
Some of them making it trophies.
yes,
Um, some kind of like game or something.
yeah, yeah. Game, right?
It's being like hunters and prone to influences and
Yes.
other things. And the thing is too is like the victims, if you look at it too, for as we just said, are usually guys in both cases. It seems a lot more than it is women. Um, and yet the women victims, I feel like, are the ones more talked about sometimes. I mean,
Oh
except in
yeah,
like the cases, obviously, where you have the shows about Dahmer and Gacy, and then obviously male victims have to come up. But if
yeah.
any of you have ever watched Dateline or True Crimes Network, or
Hmm.
a lot of the cases are
Yeah,
female.
it's deceptive. It makes it look like men are the killers and women are the victims,
Hmm.
but it's not necessarily true. In fact, to a large extent, that's false.
Yeah.
It's false. Geez, you can look at some of these like Jane Toban. They just killed men. La Tofania. That's like an Italian woman. That's another from way back.
Hmm.
Yeah, which was a thriving business selling poisons to women to kill their men.
Yeah, Boers just killed anybody, honestly, who was
Uh-huh.
like in their way
Yeah, yeah,
or they didn't like.
right.
A lot of people did that in power.
Yeah, the past was brutal, even much more so than what we know now.
Hmm.
And we can think it's all the same in history, but it's not. It was worse.
So much worse.
It was worse. The brutality in general was worse in the past.
Mm. But to that, talking about this being the glass floor, if you realistically think about it, in the realm of serial killers with the glass floor, men are still sort of at the bottom there because they end up being victims a lot more times and
Yeah.
killed more gruesomely
Yep.
and
Yeah. Well,
things of that nature.
I believe it's instinctual in origin. Women have always had more or been granted more sort of innate value and been loved more and
Hmm.
been, you kill a man out of the street and it doesn't inspire the same level. When you kill a girl, the whole family's after you, the community's after you.
Hmm. Well,
It's
depending on the girl too, that's the thing. In Lauren Williams' case, they finally gave names, but at first, when they were first talking about it, they were just like, "Oh, it was just a sex worker."
Yeah.
And I
Oh,
was
yeah,
like,
well,
"Yeah,
that's true. I mean, there's a prejudice, of course, against the
sex worker."
prostitutes, of
Yeah.
course. Yeah, the sex workers. Yeah, that's true, of course.
Even then, they finally got names for the women
Yeah.
and specified that.
Uh-huh.
in the popular cases, they do specify the men, but in the less popular cases, they're just like, "And the dudes they killed."
Yeah.
Um, but also it seems like the females get less, I mean, minus Juana, Mexico did their job there. Seems a lot of them got less harder sentences.
Hmm.
Bathory killed 650 plus, was that the number? 645 plus? And
That's
they
what
just
they
locked her
think.
away in a castle until she basically died.
Yeah.
So she still died in luxury,
Yeah.
honestly, if you think
Right.
about it. Because they couldn't prove anything by technicality outside of the ledger and
Yeah. Back in
witnesses.
those days.
But they
But
they just
there'd
locked
be
her.
blood all over these torture instruments, but I guess they couldn't really do a DNA analysis, could they?
No.
God.
But she was locked away in a castle, and that was about it. And it's a big castle. It's not like she was locked away in like the Tower in London or something.
Right.
Um, and then Tillie Klimek, I believe if I remember right, did end up locked away. Um, but it took him a little
Yeah.
while. Um,
Another point to make is, what was her name? Eileen Wuornos, something like that.
hmm
Um, she was billed as like the first serial killer, female serial killer.
mm,
Well, not hardly. There have been many before her. But it's interesting the investment in female innocence
hmm
and that men are bad and women are good. That would have us believe that this woman was like the first female serial killer, when in fact she was dwarfed by any number of female serial killers
before
before her. She just happened to be one of those rare female serial killers that operate out of a kind of a male mode,
her.
where she would lure men in as a prostitute and kill them.
Yeah.
So it was a sort of a similar male modus operandi, I guess, a little bit. Well,
Yeah.
I guess she shot them. I don't remember.
I think too they come up with a lot of excuses for them because, as I mentioned, the Borgias was like a family known for poisoning and other things. Nobody considers them serial killers.
Right.
They're just like, well, that was just the times, and it's just like,
Yeah.
uh-huh, that
Hmm.
was just the times, but they still killed the same number of Dahmer did or more.
Yeah.
I think that counts in the category. I'm pretty sure a serial killer is a killer who's killed multiple times, hence the serial part of
Indeed.
it.
Indeed.
So
Well,
regardless of status, gender, but
yeah.
they find excuses for it. So,
Yeah. Well, why don't you take us out?
well, thank you all for joining us today. This has been The Glass Floor. My name's Katrina,
I'm Tim Goldich.
and thank you so much for joining us this episode. We hope to see you next time. Please like and subscribe.
Indeed.